Hello everyone, today I'm going to be showing you how to knead the perfect atta dough. Getting the atta right is the foundation of making soft, fluffy rotis and beautiful parathas. If you struggle with your rotis and parathas, then it might be that there's something missing in your dough. This video is going to help you with that. The truth is, no amount of perfection when it comes to rolling can make up for a badly kneaded atta dough. So stay tuned. I hope you enjoy the video, and if you do enjoy it, please like and subscribe. Thank you. So to start off, I've taken 3 cups of atta and I'm going to be kneading this with hot water. You want to get water that's as hot as you can handle without it becoming uncomfortable. Hot water leads to a very soft dough. It kneads a lot easier, and I always find that my rotis and parathas, they're a lot softer. So I've got my hot water in a jug, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour that over my atta a little bit at a time, and I'm going to work that in with my fingers. Once I feel like the water has been absorbed into the atta, I'm going to add some more, slowly, a little bit at a time, and I'm not going to throw in loads, because what can happen is it may oversaturate the atta with water, and when that happens, then the atta will be really wet and you'll have to add in more flour, and it's just more effort. Just add it in slowly and work it in with your fingers, and once you feel like it's coming together, you can start to use more of your hand and start to scrunch it up so that the flour and the water begins to form a dough. What you might find is you might get some dry spots. They might be underneath the dough. So what you can do is just lift up the dough and add some water to that area exclusively and mix that in with the rest of the dough. If you want, you can add some oil into the dough at a ratio of about 1 teaspoon of oil per 1 cup of atta. What the oil does is it helps make the roti or paratha become softer. It's a lot easier to knead and roll out, and it also prevents the dough from sticking to the counter when you're rolling it out. You don't need to add the oil. My mum didn't used to add oil to her atta, and I don't tend to add any oil either. However, if you're a beginner and you struggle with rolling out rotis, I do find that the oil does make it a lot easier. Now, as you can see, the flour and the water is looking less powdery and more like an actual dough. So I'm going to start working this with my knuckles now, and wherever I feel like I need some more water, I'm going to add some very, very, very slowly. It's really problematic when you add in too much water, and it's just worth your time and effort to just work it in very slowly. Keep working the dough with a kneading and a scrunching motion. So over here I lifted my dough and I discovered another dry spot, so I've gone in and added some more water just to that dry spot, and I've mixed that in with the rest of the dough. And again, I found another dry spot. It's really common for that to happen, and it's fine. Just as long as you don't add in too much water, you'll be okay. Okay, so now the dough has come to a point where it's almost ready, but it's still very stiff and difficult to work. It needs some more water, but what I'm going to do is I'm not going to pour water over it. Instead, I'm going to wet my hands, and I'm going to use those wet hands to work into the atta. This will allow me to finish off the dough and to get it to the right texture without adding in too much water. It's really easy to add in too much water at this stage where you know that the dough is not quite ready, it's still feeling dry and stiff, but you don't really know how to go about that. Well, I've found that wetting your hands is the best way to sort of finish off and work the last couple of minutes of the dough. Keep kneading the atta, wet your hands if you need to, and keep working it even after you feel like it's at the right texture. The longer you knead your atta, the softer the rotis and parathas will be, and the better your atta will be to work with when you're later rolling it out. The more you sort of work and knead the atta, the more you activate the gluten within the flour, and that will help make the rotis and parathas more soft and fluffy. The way to tell whether your atta texture is perfect and if it's not too dry or not too wet is to bring a clean finger and press it onto the surface of the atta. If your finger comes back clean, that means that the atta texture is perfect. To store the atta and to preserve its freshness, it needs to be packed airtight. So one way you can do that is in a plastic container which closes completely airtight. Alternatively, you can also use cling film. Stored correctly, your atta will remain at its optimal freshness for the first 3 to 4 days, and it might even last a 5th day. Now I'm going to head on to some frequently asked atta kneading questions. I've pulled out these questions from my Instagram page. The first question is there a ratio of water to atta? And I'm afraid this isn't the answer you want to hear, but there isn't a ratio. It depends on so many factors, including how fibrous the atta is, the temperature of the water. It depends on loads of things. Do you use oil or not? It'll vary between brands. So any estimate anyone gives you is just going to be a ballpark figure. It's not going to be a hard and fast rule. So I'm not comfortable giving you a ratio. Next question is, how do you know when the atta is soft, hard, too soft, etc.? Dough is stiff and difficult to work with. If you have to apply a lot of pressure and it kind of hurts your arms, it feels like a workout, then that means that the dough is too hard. If your atta dough is too wet, it's gloopy, you're struggling to form a shape out of it, then it is too soft. How do I do it with the cake mixer? So you can knead atta with a cake mixer or a KitchenAid. You can even do it with a food processor as well. All you need to do is add the flour into the vessel and slowly add warm water in. Keep the machine running, and once it forms into a dough that looks like, a standard atta dough, let it run for a few more minutes. What brand of atta is best? So I've tried loads of attas, but I can only speak about the ones that are available in the UK. I've had a really good experience with Pillsbury, Ashirvad and East End. I always get the Chucky Gold atta, medium, multigrain. They all work really well for me. If you do go for a brand other than the ones that I've mentioned, for the best results, I would really recommend you go for a Chucky atta. Next question, do I need to rest atta before using it? Does it need to be room temperature or can it be cold? So resting the atta is always a good idea. It helps make the atta more pliable and easier to roll out. And as for whether it should be room temperature or cold, that's up to you. Whatever you're more comfortable with, you can roll a good roti either way. I do find that if you're a beginner, you may find it easier to roll it out when it's room temperature because it's softer. But if you're more of a seasoned roti maker, then cold is absolutely fine. Should we add oil to regular roti atta? You can if you want to, there's no harm in it. It helps make the roti softer, easier to knead and roll, and it reduces how much it sticks to the work surface. So if that's a problem you face, you can do that. And the final question, how do I work out how much atta I need for a certain amount of rotis? So my ratio is, for every cup of atta, I get about 3 rotis from those. So use that and work out how much atta you need to use to make 12 or 15 or 20 or however many rotis you want to make from that batch. If you make a smaller roti, then you might be able to get 4 out of a cup. That's it from me and my atta kneading video. I hope I managed to answer some of your questions and help you understand how to knead a better atta dough. If you still have any questions about atta kneading, feel free to leave a comment down below and I'll get back to you. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't already, please subscribe and check out my other videos too. Thank you so much. Bye bye.